Atten. Fellow seekers of the divine, over the last 10 to 15 years, the ashram has released second and third editions of many of Gurudev's earlier books that have been out of print. Some of them are really gems. One is called Jivamukta Gita. And like many of Gurudev's later books, it is a collection of his sayings arranged by his disciples. It also includes, from the scriptures, some of the ecstatic quotes on the state of being a Jivamukta. It is a very thrilling book, and also a very humbling one. It makes us realize that no matter what experiences we have had, no matter how much we understand, it is speaking of something that our present mind simply cannot grasp. Is there anything that can help us in our search? All the Puranas, all scriptures, point us to one thing, and that is the necessity of surrender, that we must take refuge, that ultimately all our own efforts, while necessary, are going to fail. God alone can lead us and finally save us. Thus, Lord Krishna in the Gita tells us that no one crosses this ocean of samsara unless they take refuge in Him alone. Buddhism and Christianity and Islam all have similar verses. But in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna becomes a little more specific as to what is required. He tells us to abandon all dharmas. It is difficult to let this in, because dharma not only means righteousness, it is the basis of the entire world. If we abandon dharma, then what happens to the world? The truth is that without dharma, the world collapses. And that is exactly the state that is described in Gurudev's book, Jivamukta Gita. The world itself has not disappeared, but the world as we understand it, the world of samsara, which is guided by dharma in its highest sense, has actually collapsed and disappeared. This is totally non-understandable to the mind. And yet, if we could even, in theory, accept this possibility, it points us to the highest sadhana, which would logically explain why it is the last teaching verse in the Gita. This verse tells us that we must, at all times, be prepared to not only question what we know, but to be willing to consider new ways of thinking. We must be prepared to let go of everything that we think we know. In other words, to be prepared to abandon what we have lived by and to venture out into the darkness, not knowing where we are going, but an absolute trust that even in the darkness, God is guiding us. Gurudev believed in integral yoga, or the yoga of synthesis. He obviously did not want us to be too fixed in any particular yoga. Perhaps one of the reasons is that in his own way, ultimately, he wanted us to abandon all dharmas, all yogas, and take refuge in him alone. Hari Om Tat Sat.